All right, we are live. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live event. Our program today is called How Diversity Positively Impacts Our Team and Community. I'm so glad you came to join us today. I'm Michelle Beauchamp. My company is called the Champ Group, and I partner with companies and individuals to help them grow in leadership and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm super excited that you're here today, audience. When you have questions, and right now I want you to start coming in and commenting, telling us that you're here, where are you calling in from, and then throughout our program, we want to encourage you to put comments, to share your thoughts, and feel free to ask us questions about what you hear us talking about today. And we're going to make sure that we do our best to address those. I am so honored and excited to introduce you to our two guests who are such pros. I really am privileged. They have such compassion and commitment to the subject of diversity. We have Susan Howington and Jim Anderson, and I want them to give you a couple of sentences about themselves, and you're going to see I am so excited about having them here today. Susan, you want to start?
Sure. Well, first, Michelle, let me thank you so much for including me in today's session. I'm very excited to be here. And so I am Susan Howington, as Michelle said. I'm the CEO of a company called Power Connections Career Services. And we're involved in pretty much almost every part of the employee life cycle. But predominantly, we're an outplacement firm. We work with companies when they have the initiative where they've got to let some people go. They give them outplacement to help them have a soft landing. We do executive coaching, leadership development, and in addition, HR consulting and recruiting. So if you look at the life cycle, we're touching kind of the four main points there.
Thank you, Susan. You've been busy, let's just say.
You've been busy. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And Jim, how about you? Help our audience understand what is it that you do, Jim?
Well, that might take a while to explain, but I'll do the best that I can. Association is a little bit complicated, but thank you for having me, Michelle. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate all the work that you've done too. Jim Anderson with the California Society of Association Executives, and we're a nonprofit association. And like all associations, our foundation is really bringing people together in an industry to help teach them to do whatever they're doing better. So it could be engineers or therapists or any kind of professional or industry group where members get together to help each other. And so my members happen to be the professional paid staff of the associations in California. So we're the Society of Association Executives, and it's been an honor to lead this group for 19 years.
Wow, 19 years. Yeah. That's awesome. You're doing some things right then, Jim. You're doing some things right. Well, thank you so much for that. And we have some people that are chiming in on who they are and where they're calling in from. We have Holly, we have Erica, we have Dr. Kamara, Kim. So we've got people who are joining in. So again, audience, we want to welcome you. You could have done a lot of different things right now, and you chose to be with us, and we aim to please. We plan to deliver. Make sure that as we're going through the program, you engage with us and ask us questions. And so here's the thing that I want to talk about is April is Diversity Awareness Month. So it was important for me that we address this and discuss it, like, what does it mean and how is it getting done and why is it so important? And it's not new. We know diversity is not new. However, the awareness and the action toward it has really increased since the murder of George Floyd in May of 2020. That's true. And what's important about all this is that when companies and associations and organizations do practice diversity, we know that profits go up, morale increases, and the breadth and depth that we get from perspectives and experiences really grows. So it is important. Now, research that I've seen recently from McKinsey, from Lean In Report, from Harvard Business Review, it says things like this. People from underrepresented groups, people of color, women, LGBTQ plus community, people with disabilities, still, even though we know diversity is important, The people from underrepresented groups have fewer promotions, are terminated first, and are undercompensated. So we know the importance of diversity. We want to keep it top of mind. I've experienced and observed that lately, I'll say within the last 7 or 8 months, the focus and commitment seems to have waned a little bit. And I'm concerned about it, which is why I said, you know what? I want to make sure and do my part and find some people who care about it, like Jim and Susan, so that we can talk about why diversity is important. And that's why I'm so honored to have them here with us today. So I want to start by talking about our why. Why are you so committed to this? And what I know about both of you is your why, it matches your actions. So each of you address why is this important to you? Susan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. My whole life, I've wanted to help people. I've been fortunate in that way. I've always had some sense of direction about what did I want to do with my life. And so I found an area that I love. I love business and I love helping people. And my why is to, it matches so well because I want to help professionals maximize their fulfillment in their work lives. And I do this through areas. I help people find meaningful work. I help people create career advancing strategies. And I also help businesses in their executive ranks and management ranks work more effectively on their relationships with the people that work for them. And all of those things, Michelle, if we look at people and the human race, it doesn't matter who they are to me. I want to see people and companies much more fulfilled and working effectively with each other. So yeah, I think you can tell I'm very passionate about my why.
You are. Thank you. I knew you were, Susan. Thank you for that. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so passionate about it. It's important right now because people want to know, their why and what the work that they do is more important, I think, than in a long time. So thank you for that. And Jim, what's your why?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. For me, I'd be honest with you, you mentioned George Floyd's murder. And for me, that was a seminal moment. It really was. You get to a certain point in your life where you've had an experience that is life-changing. And for that, that was true for me too. So diversity, equity, inclusion has been something I've always believed in, but I would say I was falling short on the actions. And that really, it just had a huge impact on me, and it still does. And so it's something that I brought to the organization, and I'm glad to say have tremendous support at the board level and throughout the organization. So we can talk a little bit more about how that's translating into action now, but that's really for me what got me down this path in a serious way.
Okay. And thanks for that honesty and transparency, and thanks for caring. You cared enough to say, okay, and this is going to bring us right to our next conversation, which is examine culture. So I know what both of you have done is examine the culture that you were currently in. Jim, you looked at the culture between your organization and all of their associations and members and employees, right? Because you've got a whole team. And Susan, I think what you're involved in is really helping the clients that you have and the people that you work with examine their culture. And Susan, you mentioned something interesting when we were preparing, and that was that you can tell a culture when you see who's hired, fired, and promoted. And so can you tell us a little bit more about that? And then audience, I want to remind you to feel free to comment and ask questions about what we're talking about.
Yeah, when I go in and do let's say a 360, I'll do a verbal 360 about an executive. And I always ask the people that I speak to, that I interview with, when they're giving feedback about that executive, if they have observed a style in the hiring, in the promoting, and the firing that occurs in that department or in the company in general. And as an executive coach, I can get a clear sense of the culture of a company, a segment of the culture. If people are hired due to favoritism, that it's perceived that they don't have the skill or the talent that they should have, that's a sign. If people are promoted without the skill and talent and there's favoritism, that's another sign. And if people are fired and the skill and talent wasn't considered in other factors, that's another indicator that there's something about the culture in that department or company that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you work with them to understand biases and that sort of thing, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So that's good. Thanks for saying that. Because, like I said, the research I've seen and companies I've seen that are working together, the people who are the last hired, sometimes they're women and minorities, right? And they're the first fired. And there's just such a challenge with that. So what I appreciate is that you help people identify that and understand that. That's important.
Yeah. And that statement that you made, now I've heard it many times before, but it makes me very sad to hear that, that people are fired because of their gender or their color. And it's hard to believe, but I know it still exists.
I'm sorry for my dog chiming in there too. My dog must have had something to say about that because she started.
Okay. He's welcome.
That. I've often said if an animal doesn't show up, it's not really a live meeting.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have a little bit of that going on.
I guess so. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And so thank you for that. And Jim, I'm gonna move to this next question because it goes with examining the culture and assessing our team. So we talked about why you were so committed to it. We're talking about how. And one of the things I know you've done, Jim, is you've done surveys and engagements to find out how people are feeling and understand what is it that you need to change. So what have you done, Jim, to assess your team, and teams plural, right? Because you've got lots of different connections with your teams.
Yeah, sorry if this sounds disjointed here, but to make a long story short, the organization has put together a diversity, equity, inclusion plan with 4 sets of measurable goals. And one of those, and the most important one that we embedded in our strategic plan, was around our culture and improving our culture and advancing our practice of DEI. And so we've gone through really, I say, a system-wide review in looking at, with the board of directors, all of our committees, all of our regional councils, going through and just asking a very simple question: how can they advance DEI from what they're doing? And we've done a lot of that internal work, and we're going to continue to do it. But Michelle, you helped me on our first survey that we did of our members in 2020. We did our first ever DEI survey, but based on the advice I got from the DEI committee, you should, like a lot of things, it should not be separate from the regular things that you do. So we took the most important questions and embedded them into our overall member survey, and we just got some of those results last week, or just within the last couple of weeks. And a couple of the key questions we asked were: how important is diversity, equity, inclusion to you personally? And how important is it, in your perception, to your organization? And I was pleasantly surprised at the results. And anywhere between, on those 4 questions, because we asked really 2 member segments, there's 2 main member segments we have. And the people that felt that DEI was either extremely or very important ranged from 66% to 79%, whether it's the organization or the individual. So to me, those were very high results, higher than I expected. And there's still a very large segment that thought it was somewhat important, but those that really ranked it high. So to me, that is very actionable type of results that we get back. And then we also asked, what is their perception of CalSAE and their satisfaction of our practice of DEI? And what was interesting is, while the results improved, we still have a lot of work to do. So of the membership survey, 50% said they were very or satisfied with our practice. The other 50% were neutral in some way. Either they didn't know, or it was neither agree or disagree, right? But there was no negative assessment. So to me, it's like, we're doing the work. I don't know if we've really told the story. That might be part of it. But we're really, I feel like right now we're really hitting on all gears. And it's been 2 years of work internally before some of the things we're doing now are really extending out to our members and other areas of the community.
You know, first, congratulations, because those are some very high numbers that you gave. Those statistics are high, Jim, 66 and 70. Those are very high. So you know what? Sometimes we're so busy moving forward, we don't stop and pat ourselves on the back. I think you should pat yourself on the back because those are very good.
Yeah.
The other thing I just want to add too is that it's a journey. I mean, you know, so if 50% said neutral, here's the good news is you didn't get negative, like you said, and it's a journey. And so we can't do anything and really say, okay, we're done with that, let's move on, because this involves people and things are changing all the time. So it is a journey, and that's one thing that I really try and convey to people. We can't say, okay, we're going to focus on diversity and inclusion from January through June, and then we're going to stop. It does it doesn't work that way. So I love those tangible results that you have as a result of the assessment that you've done.
I do want to just comment, Michelle, because you said you feel like maybe things are plateaued or going a little bit less than. You know, my sense of it right now is that people still feel it's very important, but they've done a lot of what I would call the basic work, like doing education around unconscious bias, for example, and done trainings with their team and their members. But how do you get to another level, a more sophisticated level? And I feel like that's a place where we can help our members. I feel like there's still going to be demand there to do that. We just have to help lead them and show them some of those things to do, and then they can apply them to their own associations.
Yeah, and so it's, and you know, that's what we're talking about too, the how, the what, the why, right? So we're going to go into that what in a second. Holly said, yes, it's a journey. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for that agreement there. Yeah, thank you. It is such a journey. And it's, what do we do next? So you're right, Jim. Sometimes people feel kind of stuck. So let's kind of go to the what now. The what is it that we're doing? So let's talk about communications, because we know communications is really the core of everything, right? So Susan, you commented about some things that you do to help your clients and communicate with everyone, not just a certain group. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think in organizations, companies can be, they may be communicating really well at the top of the organization, but they're not monitoring how far the communication goes down into the levels of the organization or the company. And in some cases, our underrepresented demographics tend to be at the bottom, layers. And so what's communicated at the top maybe goes to the senior management, but does it get to the supervisory level? And are the supervisors, have you helped them understand that it's important to keep pushing that information down? And so when everyone understands an initiative, a dynamic, a market change, a customer change, people can take ownership of it, and they will work more effectively. They'll be more engaged, and that helps with retention as well. So communication, we use the term communication so loosely, but executives, and it has to start at the top, of course, but executives need to analyze all the different, how does it sift down? Specifically, how is it sifting down? And if it's not sifting down, I truly believe, I could be naive, Michelle and Jim, but if companies were more conscientious about that, they would see less confusion, disagreements, less misunderstandings amongst people. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And it definitely helps in the DEI area, because underserved or underrepresented community in your company is going to feel included. They'll feel included.
100%. And that's what it's all about, feeling included, feeling like you belong. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you're at the entry level of the organization, you might not know what's going on. And by the way, maybe the company's doing some really good things, but they forgot or they neglected to filter that on down. And so the communication is so important. And we definitely have some people who are commenting. Let's see. Interested in hearing more about strategies related to current staff. With the small staff, you don't have much turnover in your small group. What might this look like? So thank you for that LinkedIn user who we don't know the person's name, but thank you for that. And so Jim and Susan, do you have anything to add to that for the person? Like what about different size companies that people might lead?
Well, I have a very simple strategy, and that is to hold more team meetings. Bring your team together once a month or twice a month or every Monday morning, every Friday morning. Talk to people regularly all the time. And if you're a manager, make yourself literally available to people. You know, the proverbial door is always open, but behave that way. Make sure your behavior reflects that. So it's not hard.
It's not. And you know what? And then Holly added managers and frontline supervisors, 70% responsible for driving engagement. So great point, Susan. Awesome. Yeah. And they don't have to be 2-hour-long meetings. Sometimes people think they have to do 15 minutes, right?
In fact, they need to have an agenda. You can't have a loose, out of control meetings that burns people out. It can be 10 minutes, just like you said, Michelle.
Exactly. Great point. And let's talk about collaboration, because these go together, right? So this is another what we talked about, communication and how important that is. Let's talk about collaboration. Jim, what can you share with us about how you collaborate with so many different people within CalSAE?
Yeah, just a quick comment on the team thing too, because if it's one thing to hire and if you have a stable team, that's great, but you can also focus on what is the role of each individual within DEI, and it can be anything. It depends. If it's a private sector company, I'm not sure how well I can speak to that, but within an organization, we've got a communications manager, and how are people represented on our website or in our communications, for example, or our education director. It's not just, are we providing the right programming, but what is the composition of our speakers and representation in that manner as well. So there's a lot of layers to people being included and a part of this journey as well. As far as collaboration, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with communications in my mind. You've got the staff team and how they're working together and how you work through some issues and make decisions, because a lot of times there's very subtle and nuanced decisions you need to make as a team. Then there's your board and your volunteer leaders, and then there's your larger group of volunteers, and then there's your members. So right now we're really working on collaboration with all of our members. We're setting up a series of diversity summits this fall to help us advance the practice of DEI together. The other one I'm really excited about, because one of my, sticking points in the past has been, I look at our membership and it is not very racially diverse. It is not.
Okay.
But I've always felt, well, I'm not responsible for hiring my members. How can I really influence that? Well, we have started a pilot program of developing internships through CSU Sacramento. And come to find out, the state of California has developed a program that will help pay for paid internships for students from underrepresented communities. And so I can now tell my nonprofit members, we can get you a paid intern in the state, and Sac State are going to pay 90% of those costs. And that will bring in a much different group of people into this industry. Because that's the other thing I think we figured out is associations, employees of associations usually become employed because they knew somebody in the industry. And networks tend to reinforce themselves. And we're trying to look beyond our current networks and going beyond that. So that's another area of collaboration. I'm really excited. We've done a lot of work in developing those relationships at Sac State. And I think we're really set up to do some impactful things there.
That's awesome. And see, Jim, one of the things that you said was you looked around and you saw that there needed to be some more diversity. And we already know the benefits of diversity, and you're taking action to make it happen. So I appreciate that. Lauren has a comment here. She said our org recently updated our appointment policy to set benchmark goals for demographics of appointed leaders within 5 years. We're creating FAQ, virtual workshop for our leaders. So these are some really good examples of things that people are doing. And so thank you, Lauren, for sharing some of the activities that you're doing. I want to talk just a little bit about
the California Lawyers Association.
Oh, okay, awesome. What
Michelle,
have you found? Yeah.
may I make one more comment about collaboration, because it directly affects the impact on the team.
Okay, sure.
Again, looking at the word communication, what does communication mean? Look at the word collaboration. We use it all the time, but we don't demonstrate it, and therefore our management doesn't demonstrate it. We say the word, but we really need people to understand what is collaborative behavior. What's the conversation like? Because if we're collaborating with each other, we're understanding each other.
Exactly.
We're problem solving together. We're innovating together. So anyway,
and
it's a big word.
It is a big word. And to your point to earlier about communication, we have to make sure we give everybody the opportunity to collaborate, right? Not just certain people get a chance to collaborate. So you're right. You know what we're doing? We're just opening up a whole bunch of other subjects here, but we're doing a really good job, I think, in making people think about what is it that we could be doing? What else can we do? You know, that's the whole, what else, we're doing this, and this. What else can we do? Now, we have just a few more minutes. And so, see, this time goes fast, as I know y'all have a lot to talk about. And our audience has been great with the engagement. So we really appreciate that. And so what impact have you found that this has had on your team so far? What would you say the impact is?
Well, I'm going to give you different layers of that. So for the staff team, I think it has given us an area to have more conversation around. I think our team is more aware of, and that reflects on how they make decisions down the line. I gave you like the communications example. Previously, I've heard in the wider scope of things, some of the things that we're doing has allowed other folks from underrepresented communities to feel like they're seen and heard and being more included and a part of the organization than they have before. So those are just a couple of examples.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and my team, we work with so many different people every day, as you can imagine, from all walks of life, every professional level, every industry. And so I think in our business, you have to have an appreciation for everybody. It's just kind of who you are. It runs through your veins. So, you know, we enjoy the work that we do. We love what we do, and we love our clients, and we become their biggest fans. So it's all good. It's all going in the right direction for us.
It is good. Yeah, that's awesome. And then kind of along with that, how about the community? Because Jim, one of the things that you said was, I know that you said, is that because of this awareness that you said people have had, you're seeing some different members that you normally didn't see. So what kind of impact is this having on the community, would you say?
Yeah, so we are seeing folks that are more engaged with us in general. The other piece too is like I said, we're using a wider lens in terms of how we reach out to other organizations to be included with CalSAE, and I think that also goes to some of the collaboration that I was mentioning before. So I don't know, you know, until we took that survey recently with the members, because a third of them, we got like 1/3 of all of our members respond to that survey. So that was really good, and that really kind of reinforced to me the positive impact from a perception standpoint and an inclusion standpoint on the wider community. Because that satisfaction rating that I mentioned before, we're at 50% or so. It was much lower than that the first time.
And and so what I want to say too, and we're almost golly, almost out of time, but here's the thing: those actions that both of you have taken, they require more work. Let's keep it real, right? And you have been willing to do the reaching out to organizations and associations and resources that you didn't used to reach out to. That takes more work, right? And the reason why you're willing to do it, it goes back to your why. I mean, it really does show us why it's important to you, and you're willing to do the and then some so that you can get different results. So I'm looking at the clock and it's already 11:30. So Abigail, can you plug in this last slide here? Because what we believe that's important is that our guests have had such wisdom and such nuggets today. And I know that there's more information that you want to know. So what I want to do is I want to encourage you to take a snapshot of this slide that we have here, so that you can get in touch with Susan and ask her more questions about what it is she does to work with her clients in every aspect of employment. And Jim with the CalSAE and so many associations that he's involved in, and how maybe you can get involved, right? And feel free to reach out to me too. So we want to make sure and encourage you to connect with us. And so with that, I'll just end it by saying, you know what? It matters. And Susan, you said, you know what, we're human beings. So we want to make sure that we treat everyone well, that we keep diversity top of mind. And so with that, I want to thank you so much, Jim and Susan, for the excellent engagement that we've had today. And audience, thank you for being with us today. And with that, I'll end the broadcast because I know you have other things to do. So I'll end the broadcast.